Is The Secret in the drama worth all the hype the marketing made it out to be? Has A24 successfully brought another hit into their catalog? There's only one way to find out. I'm Indian Jones, and this is a Pocket Watch review, where I watch movies without knowing the runtime and count how many times I check my watch to see if a movie's gas or ass. Today, we're watching the drama, and I'm hyped. It's always great to see movie stars in their prime doing non-blockbuster movies. In the past, we see actors do this type of smaller scale or A24 style film when they're early in their career or in their twilight. And I'd take actors making this type of movie, taking risks, trying new things, over just constantly making blockbusters 10 times out of 10. And I get chasing the bag, especially when you're in the prime of your career, you're in demand, you want to make as much money as possible, but I feel like there has to be some sort of balance with smaller scale films to showcase how good of an actor you are, especially if you want to be considered one of the greats. Otherwise, you end up trying to be only in blockbusters like Chris Pratt or The Rock, and neither of those guys are considered to be like great actors, even though for the most part they're pretty likable and charismatic on screen and make a lot of money. But yeah, Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are proper movie stars, so it's gonna be fun seeing them in a movie like this. Zendaya is great every time I see her on screen, and if you don't think she's a top tier working actress right now, you're crazy. And obviously it's no secret how much of a Robert Pattinson fan I am, so let's see if I have to update my top 5 Robert Pattinson movie rankings after this. But it is kind of crazy that this is just one of 3 movies that they're going to be in together this year. The other 2 movies are obviously going to be the biggest blockbusters of the year, so I'm really glad we get to see Pattinson and Zendaya showcase their talent in a smaller, more contained film. And I'm not saying I'm not going to be in theaters day one for both Dune 3 and The Odyssey. It's just that they have huge ensemble casts, and when you're not the lead, it's really hard to flex your acting muscles as much. Also, A24 has been doing a lot of unique and successful marketing, going back to the first release of their poster, which made it seem like Pattinson and Zendaya were sharing a save the date for their wedding with their friends. And I think they took out ads in local newspapers to announce their engagement and put up a fake wedding website. And more recently, on the red carpet, Zendaya has been doing the classic wedding stuff, wearing something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. And I guess she staged some wedding with this Tom Holland guy or something. I don't know too much about that though.
We'd have no memory of you. It would be as though you never existed.
But a lot of the recent marketing has been built up around some secret that Zendaya reveals leading up to their wedding that changes the whole relationship, I guess. And a lot of people are trying to figure out what the secret could be, and luckily I haven't been spoiled yet, and hopefully when you're watching this video, you haven't been spoiled yet either. Honestly, screw it. Let's do a quick top 3 of what it could be. In third, I have the prediction I'm the least confident about. I think just basic infidelity or having some sort of secret relationship on the side other than Robert Pattinson's character. I just feel like that would be super bland and kind of on the nose for what they've built up so far. My second guess is that it was a relationship set up by Zendaya where Robert Pattinson was her mark, either for money purposes or something else, but she actually fell for him throughout the process. The prediction that I think is most likely to be true though is that she's either a murderer or like a hit woman / spy of some sort. I don't know. I'm just going based off of the last poster I saw with Robert Pattinson with blood all over his face. That's enough of a preamble. Let's get to my Pocket Watch predictions. I'm predicting this movie will have a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. I'm also predicting I'm going to check the time 0 times during this movie. Let's see how it goes. Off to the movie.
We come to this place for magic.
I predicted the runtime would be 1 hour 47 minutes and ended up having a runtime of 1 hour 45 minutes. Only 2 minutes off. Bang! Bang! I also predicted there would be 0 pocket watch checks, but I was wrong. There was 1. I checked around the 1 hour 22 minute mark because it felt like we were building up towards the climax and the third act was in motion, and I had to check how deep we were into the movie at that point. I feel like 1 check in 1 hour 45 minute movie is pretty solid, especially considering it was out of curiosity and not boredom. All right, we're gonna get right into the spoilers for this movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, this is your warning. This was definitely a dark comedy, or a doom-com as some people are calling it. But I'm not gonna lie, our crowd was either dead or asleep or something during this whole movie. There were great moments throughout this movie where I was either laughing or audibly reacting in some way throughout, but there's only a handful of other people reacting with me at the same time. I really felt like I was going crazy, and I was surprised because it was a sold-out show and everyone seemed like they were super excited going into the theater, so I don't know what happened. It didn't seem like there was any energy throughout all the twists and turns, and even then when like the big secret reveal happened. I guess I'll use that as a segue to talk about the highly anticipated twist or reveal that they were marketing and building up for so long. The secret that Zendaya's character Emma reveals actually happens pretty early for a twist. I think it was only about 20 minutes into the movie. The main couple and their closest friends are at their wedding tasting, and they've had more than a few drinks, and they all go around the circle saying what the worst thing they've ever done is. And the big reveal is that when Emma was in high school, she almost committed a mass shooting, which first of all is something that I could have never predicted and is 100% a situation where I would have no idea how to act if I was Charlie, especially if my wedding was in a few days. Regarding how early the twist happens in this movie, I'm all in favor of it. I think it makes the most sense, especially knowing that this reveal was coming, and if they dangled it in front of us towards the end of the movie, I would have felt cheated, especially because this is what sets the whole plot in motion. But yeah, the reveal came completely out of left field for me, and I know it's going to spark a lot of controversy as more and more people get to watch it. The nature of school shootings is obviously a sensitive subject, and sensitive subjects can be a good starting point for a lot of dark comedies. But I think a lot of the controversy will stem from a Norwegian director handling this subject matter. Someone not from the US might not understand how sensitive of a topic it is, and it might seem a little out of touch, but I think he's doing it intentionally. He has some dialogue with Robert Pattinson's Charlie where he says, like, I'm not from the US, I don't understand this, like, why are you making such a big deal out of it? So a little bit of a meta commentary aspect to it, but still, it's definitely a fine line that they have to walk throughout this movie, and it's definitely going to lead to conversation one way or another. I thought it was handled pretty well, and I didn't really have any big issues with it. I think it's going to lead to a lot of conversations about what you would do if you were in this situation, which I think is the point of the movie. I think the main criticism that I have and other people probably have is that they kind of use the reveal as a shock factor that pushes the movie forward rather than actually addressing the sensitive subject and like the racial or social implications of it. It's interesting though that out of all 4 confessions, Emma's the only one who admits to something that she didn't actually end up doing. Yeah, her idea was clearly the worst and she did a lot of active prep for it, but at the end of the day, she didn't actually do it. So does that free her from all the blame, or should she receive the most for just even thinking about it? There are so many discussions that are going to be sparked from this and how certain people would react. Also, is Alana Haim's character Rachel the worst maid of honor in the history of all movies? She's exactly who Roy Woods was talking about.
No need to pretend. She got a little bit of drum with her friends.
I wouldn't wish a friend like her on my worst enemy. Rachel's the one who has the idea to play the we listen and we don't judge game, and she forces her husband to say the worst thing he's ever done, and when he refuses to do it, she's like, I'll do it for you if you don't do it. You better do it right now. It's like, oh my God, bro. And eventually it leads to everyone saying their secret or the worst thing that they've ever done, but it seems like Rachel's the only one who doesn't feel any remorse for what she did. Which again begs the question of what's really worse, doing something that's decently bad and not feeling any remorse for it, or thinking something unthinkable and horrible and prepping for it, but not actually doing it, but still feeling remorse. Also, it felt like Rachel was being mean to Emma even before the reveal. There were a lot of subtle comments she was making, like, oh, you look ugly when you cry. Things like that was given real mean girl energy. And honestly, even if the secret reveal never happened, I bet that Rachel still would have made the same comment about Emma not having any friends and having to make Rachel her maid of honor in the maid of honor speech. There is so much social commentary happening in this movie about the nature of certain friendships or big events like weddings and how people will be silently or not so silently making comments and judging you as you go about your life. But what's cool about this movie is that it's not interested in telling us what's right or wrong. It's more so opening the door for conversation with different moral dilemmas and leaving it up to us to see how we would handle them. Yeah, sorry, I feel like the secret reveal in that discussion took over like the whole review. But I also wanted to give Daniel Pemberton a shout out. He's really talented and his score was a standout for me throughout this movie. And the acting performances of the main 4 were all terrific. Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, Alana Haim, and Mamoudou Athie all crushed it and gave real life to their characters. As of right now, I don't think I'm reworking my Robert Pattinson top 5 acting performances, but I might have to rethink it. He does a great job of carrying this movie, as a lot of it's from his perspective after he finds out about Emma's secret. So we'll have to see on a rewatch how it shakes out. The cinematography of this was also great. The way that they were cutting back and forth between the past and the present and transitioning to hallucinations, it was all a treat to watch. A lot of this was filmed in Boston, and I remember because they were looking for extras with interesting faces, and I sent some headshots in, but I guess I didn't make the cut. RIP. I did wish we got to see more of Boston in the movie. It felt like this movie could have been set anywhere, which is fine. I'm just complaining because I rep Boston hard, so.
We did it!
But yeah, this was definitely one of those movies where without knowing anything, you could feel that A24 had its fingerprints all over it. It's weird and mysterious in a good way, and the marketing leading up to the release also helps showcase that. It's honestly impressive that all the movies they've distributed so far are so unique from each other, but you can still identify them as having the A24 feel. And especially now that they're producing a lot more of their releases, it really helps them be more intentional with what they're adding to their catalog. And I think that creative control and crafting their image exactly how they want brought them to a point where they're now recognized worldwide. It's kind of crazy though that they have movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once to After Sun to The Green Knight. They're all completely different movies stylistically, but I guess they have a general through line of self-discovery. Also, I didn't even realize this till after watching the movie, but Ari Aster was also involved in the production with his production company Square Peg. And they also have a returning A24 director with Christoph Borgli, who was responsible for Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage. I guess they liked him enough to bring him back to write and direct this movie. I think he did a great job. I'm definitely a sucker for non-linear storytelling, and I think in the wrong hands it can end poorly, but this was definitely not one of those situations. And apparently Borgli wrote the story to be on a personal level and not about cancel culture. He doesn't want society to tell you where to draw your lines. It's more about the people in the relationship or the situation to decide for themselves, which is such an interesting point of view to have, especially in the social media age where everything can be made public. Which brings us back to how much there is to unpack in this movie and how it intentionally puts you through all these thought-provoking scenarios. Before I get to my final rating, shameless plug, if you've made it this far and like the content, please like, follow, subscribe at Indian Jones Online across all platforms. It helps me push out more content and actually know what you guys are interested in. I had a great time throughout this movie, and it'll definitely lead to some interesting conversations, but the subject matter is intentionally controversial, and the ending isn't very concrete, so I can see that rubbing people the wrong way or leaving them unsatisfied, so I'm anticipating a lot of polarizing results coming out of this. I do wish we got to dive a little bit deeper into the context of the situation and the social and racial implications a bit more. It did feel like Emma's reveal was purely used for a shock factor to set the plot into motion, so I wish there was a little bit more depth to that whole situation. For me, this was a 3.5 out of 5. It was definitely a strong 3.5, but just shy of being a 4. And even though we didn't get a neatly wrapped up happy ending, the director did mention he's a romantic, so he did see the relationship between Emma and Charlie working out. I'm hoping you guys got to watch this movie in the theaters, because if you didn't, the secret was probably ruined for you before you even watched it. That's a wrap on the Pocket Watch review of the drama. Let me know what you guys want to see next.